All right, guys, welcome back into another betting podcast. It's just going to be me on this one, so it should be a relatively quicker podcast today. So the Northern Trust, as you guys know, it's going to be a 124 now golfers in this event, so it's going to be a little bit trimmed down. Obviously, there is going to be a cut. This is going to be an interesting event because it's pretty much, I don't want to say it's going to play like a no-cut event, but it is essentially going to be playing like a no-cut event. So this is going to be one that you can definitely attack with some of the top-end guys. Even if some of the top-end guys get off to a slow start, we know that they can catch fire and go low in round 3 and round 4. In terms of betting, this is one that I do like quite a bit. It kind of sucked last week, just doing the quick recap of last week. So Doc Redman, I was on him a bit. I think he was 70-1. Mark Hubbard was 100-1. And Billy Horschel was 35-1. Also was on Harris English and Harold Varner as well. So going into Sunday, all those guys had a great shot to win, and none of them converted. At one point, they were all like top 5 as well, which I had quite a bit of them in a DFS lineup, and none of them could convert. Obviously, Billy Horschel kind of really choked on the stretch, and it was kind of interesting. One of the things I like about doing DFS content is that you're really never surprised by an outcome. We saw Billy Horschel really struggle down the stretch because of one thing, his approach game. He ranks 129th on tour, or he does now. I think it was a little bit lower last week, but 129th on tour in strokes gained approach, and it kind of came to fruition for him. That was like his one weak spot, if you will. That's kind of what held him back from winning last week. So it's just so close to having the outright, but I know, about halfway through his round when he was still winning, I'm like, go out and cash out your Billy Horschel tickets that you had, because he was one of my favorite bets last week, and I hope people ended up cashing out their Billy Horschel tickets because, I don't know, you could kind of just see that it wasn't going to be his week. I know I was messaging with Hazy. He had a couple really close parlays that came really close to hitting. He hit 4 hockey bets, and then just needed Harold Varner to win. And obviously Harold Varner kind of struggling in his round 2, couldn't make a putt. And then, he had another one that featured Jim Herman as I think it was a way to hedge, and he just missed out on that one. But it was kind of just the week that almost was. But we'll get into some of the favorite outright bets here. We'll start off here with John Rahm. So John Rahm, I do like as a play this week. He is the best stat fit in the field. You just look at his stats, and everything is just popping for him. So John Rahm, for me, is going to be a player that if you want to bet him outright, it makes perfect sense. Now, it's not going to be that much for you. Obviously, he's only, plus 1,500. But I think those are good odds, especially in a week like this. Now, I do think Bryson, who is the favorite this week, that does make a ton of sense, but I'd rather just go down to John Rahm as an outright bet. I don't think we can bet Collin Morikawa this week. That's not going to be the route that you should go this week. Just not as safe of a play for you this week. And then, so I'm going live right now, wearing the Bucks shirt as well. They had just got done losing the game, which is kind of unfortunate, But, the Raptors lost their game 1 last year, so I think that the Bucks, maybe they can pull it together and go out and win this week as well. So, not this week, but this series, I'm not that worried. Does kind of somewhat hurt. Going a little bit lower, though. So, we got Hideki. This is where it starts to get pretty interesting for me. So, Hideki's going to be a pretty decent odd, 45-1. I wish that was a little bit better because, he really has not shown that upside recently. But he's a good stat fit, okay? And he's had 3 out of his last 4 finishes have been top 25 finishes, which is kind of what you want to see. He has been trending in the right direction, and he has done really well at this course. He has 3 straight top 25 finishes here with a 4th finish in 2018. Now, yes, they didn't play this course last year, but we know who Hideki is as a player. If he can just make some putts, he's going to go out and have a good week, and we're going to see that come to fruition if he goes out and, starts draining some putts. So Hideki at 45-1, I wish it was a little bit better. I don't mind that bet. I would sprinkle a little bit on there for him. Going lower, though, probably the easiest play on DraftKings this week. I'm seeing a lot of people talk up Matthew Wolff. I don't know, that seems a little bit scary. I kind of get it, the recent form there, but the stats aren't exactly there, and they just kind of all were passing up on Abraham Answer here at 55-1. I'm like, oh, baby, give me that all day. Recent form has been great. He played well in his first and only start here at this course in 2018, where he had a top 11 finish. So we like that. One of the comp courses that we're looking at, he played really well at as well. If you don't think he's going to win, you can even do a top 10, top 20 bet as well. I don't mind that, but Abraham Answer at those odds, I do like quite a bit. And just to recap, if you guys want, kind of the full betting card, head on over to the 95 Sports page. That will be posted there. Like I said, we had about 5 bets last week going into the back nine that really had a shot between Mark Hubbard, Doc Redman, Billy Horschel, and Harold Varner. Harold Varner card choked during the stretch. It was an interesting week. It was such a bittersweet week, but this week is kind of the last one that we can really go on and attack. So I want to go down to Terrell Hatton as well. Some people might not like this bet. I get it. Not in the best recent form, but he's a guy that is a great stat fit this week. I think he has a little bit more winning upside likelihood this week than some of the other players that I like. Like Daniel Berger, for instance, I like a ton. Morikawa, I like a good amount. Webb Simpson, I like a good amount as well. Those guys are all good stat fits, but I think in terms of winning upside, I like Hatton's winning upside. At 55-1, that's something that I like a ton. But if we're going to go down and get into some like the longer shot bets, the plus, the 100-1 and more, it's tough this week. I don't think we have to go this route, and I don't think that we should. But once again, I do really like Doc Redman this week. Let me pull up his stats on the 9 to 5 page on my second laptop. I got the second laptop over here. I will pull it up here real quick. So the interesting thing about Doc Redman as well is that you look at his odds, and then you look at Abraham Answer's odds. The pricing is very similar to them on DraftKings, but their odds are significantly different, which really is just shocking to me. Doc Redman, great stat fit. Top 15 in my model this week, or top 20, sorry, in my model this week. He did have an 11th at the Travelers Championship, which is, of course, I'm using somewhat as a comp course. But we saw him. He's just been gaining strokes on his approach. His ball striking has been phenomenal. I mean, he's top 10 in total driving and ball striking. If anyone's going to be hitting the ball that well, you can roster them pretty much any week. So Doc Redman at 140-1, I like that. Now, do I expect him to win? Not essentially, but anything can happen in these playoffs. If you want to bet him to top 10, you can do that as well. Let's go a little bit lower. Trying to find 2 more, long shot bets that I like to win this week. Now, I don't see it's going to happen, but, it potentially could. So I do want to mention Henrik Norlander. He's not going to be an outright bet. Very interesting play, though, this week. Been playing some great golf. Not really exactly the course that's going to fit him. It's just going to be something that I'm looking forward to watching to see if he can kind of overcome that, because that's what's been surprising about Norlander this year is that he's been able to, overcome courses that weren't as good for him this year, which is pretty surprising. But let me talk about one of my favorite long shot bets. It's actually going to be Brendan Steele here at 175-1. I'm going to pull up his stats down here as well. He's been a guy that's just been in good recent form. He missed a cut here in 2018, but then made 2 straight cuts here. Him and Kevin Streelman, I put this on the write-up for the 9 to 5 Sports membership page, is that those two are pretty much the same. I think that Steele has a little bit more upside this week, though. I know he's priced at $6.9K on DraftKings this week, but for an outright bet, I don't mind it. Top 25 stat fit, made his last 5 cuts. Guy that really is typically a really strong ball striker and really strong total driver. He only ranks top 25 in that, but we know he's great in stroke gain approach, and if he can just make some birdies and make some putts, and he actually hasn't been, which is surprising, he hasn't been as bad of a putter this year as he was the previous year. But even more so, you could say that about Kevin Streelman, who is priced a little bit lower. Kevin Streelman has actually been putting pretty decent this year. So Brendan Steele and Doc Redman are going to be 2 of my favorite outright bets. Then we got to find one more for a long shot bet here. I don't want to say Scott Stallings, but I will say the dude made his cut here in 2018. He's been making a ton of cuts in a row. He has shown some upside recently as well. I don't mind that. He could go out and push a top 10. That wouldn't be surprising. I kind of like him to go out and make the cut. Sebastian Munoz at 40 to 1. That seems a little bit crazy for Sebastian Munoz. Yes, he has been in horrible recent form, but he's a great stat fit. Like, if he goes out in top 10s, that's not going to surprise anyone because of how strong of a stat fit he is. I mean, those odds are kind of crazy for someone. Let me pull it up. I believe he was a top 20 stat fit. Now, yes, like I said, his recent form has been horrible, and you're kind of just hoping that he can flip the switch. Yeah, top 22 stat fit. I mean, that's kind of crazy for that low of odds. I think he would be better off suited at like 200 to 1. I don't expect him to win, but if he did, it wouldn't surprise me. My last outright bet, my third favorite outright bet, is actually going to be Cameron Davis. He's a guy that showed some really good recent form at the start of the year and then recently as well. I don't mind him. He's a good stat fit. He can hit the ball long. If he can just convert on some of his birdies, it really wouldn't surprise me if he went on and won. But I really like Doc Redman the most out of that range. And then just to get into some other bets here real quick. Go into some matchups here. So JT or John Rahm, obviously that's an interesting one. I'm just going to do all these real quick, rapid fire. I think I would go with Rahm, Bryson or Rory, Bryson, Xander or Webb. I think I really like Xander there. Colin Morikawa or Jason Day, Morikawa for me. Patrick Reed or Daniel Berger. I think Patrick Reed has a little bit more upside. I definitely think Daniel Berger is much safer. Hideki or Patrick Cantlay. I'm going to go with Hideki, surprisingly. Patrick Cantlay worries me. He's going to be a great play. He's pretty much checking all the boxes, but he's been right around that cut line pretty much his last 3 events, which does worry me. Tiger, Adam Scott, that's crazy. Probably Scott. Harris top 20 English, or Ricky Fowler. Probably go with Harris English there. And then it just gets really low. Let me find one that I really like here. Maybe, Ryan Palmer at plus money over Benny Ann. Probably the only one I would go with. And maybe Bud Colley over Zach Johnson. This shouldn't be a Zach Johnson course this week. Let's get into some of the top 40 bets, and then I'll wrap this one up. If you guys have any questions, put those in the chat. Be happy to answer those. Will say I am pretty bummed that we did not get preseason NFL DFS. It's pretty much my bread and butter. If you guys have been following me for, 3 years now, we're kind of like the front runners for preseason DFS, and it's really easy to cash in. That's probably like the easiest sport to cash in, segment sport. But some of my favorite top 40 bets, and I do like to mention these because pretty much, especially this week, you pretty much just make the cut. You're going to be set up pretty well for a top 40. I really like to chase those guys that are plus 100, but it really doesn't matter. Like Harris English, I mean, the dude has been chasing top 20s pretty much the whole year. To get him for a top 40 at 100 or plus 110, I like that quite a bit. Cameron Champ, I like that quite a bit as well. You do have to worry about him making the cut, but I think he'd probably be a safer like top 20 bet, because if Cameron Champ does make the cut, he's going to go off and have a good week. Going a little bit lower, same thing kind of for Harold Varner. I think I'd rather do a top 20 bet for Varner, but he should make the cut. Varner is actually checking all the boxes besides that one event or the one course where there's the workday and the Memorial Tournament. So I don't mind him. I got a question about Adam Hadwin and Corey Connors. So Hadwin is interesting because this whole year he has been a great stat fit. But this week he's not compared to the rest of the field. Now, he's not a bad play. Obviously, he's a cut maker. I expect him to make the cut. I just worry about somewhat his recent form. Like I said, he has been making the cuts, but they've been struggling. They're only like top 20 finishes or top 50 finishes, so I don't like it. And then Corey Connors. Corey Connors, I think, is a fine GPP play. He was last week as well, but obviously with GPP plays, they're GPP plays for a reason. That means they have a higher likelihood to miss the cut, and we saw that with Corey Connors, but if his game's on, he could easily have a solid week. I'd rather go with someone like Doc Redman, though, this week. And then who's my fade? So I didn't know that these guys would be fades, quote unquote, but I saw Matthew Wolff getting talked up a ton. So I'm not on him at all. I think there's slightly better plays in his price point range, so I'm going to be on him more. And then Billy Horschel was actually getting talked up quite a bit. Here's his odds for a top 40 finish. But Billy Horschel has horrible course history here, okay? Yes, great stat fit in good recent form. I just can't believe that Billy Horschel is looking like he's going to be chalk, somewhat chalk. And same thing with Matthew Wolff, which, I mean, those two plays kind of worry me. Jeez. Thoughts on Champ and Oosthuizen pick to win or just the top 20? That's a good one. So Oosthuizen, I would do a top 20 bet on. Champ, I could chase an outright bet there. I think I'd rather bet him to top 20. But we saw Champ. We've seen the upside with Champ. If he's on his game, he can easily go out and win. Let me see the odds on Champ here. Almost plus 100. Or, sorry, 100 to 1. 91 for Champ's not bad. Don't mind those odds. But, yeah, I would go with Oosthuizen in the top 20. Champ, outright bet is fine. I'd rather do a top 20, though. That's perfectly fine. But I do want to touch on some of the longer shot top 40 bets here real quick. Just scroll to the bottom here. These are pretty crazy odds down low. So pretty much I think it's someone like Sebastian Munoz, Nick Taylor, if they make the cut, that means they're playing well. That means they're easily going to get top 40. Now, I won't go crazy with that because obviously it's not as likely. You want to pick these guys that are highly likely to, make the cut and get a top 40. So someone like Scott Stallings and Henrik Norlander, plus 200. That's not horrible there for a top 40. Don't mind those bets. Go a little bit higher here. Like I said, Steele, I kind of like for an outright bet. Same thing for Strowman. Those guys are kind of worrisome because they're really going to be hit or miss. They're either going to be contending or not going to make the cut. And kind of you could say the same for someone like Doc Redman or Emiliano Grillo. Going to be fine, like long shot bets, but to top 40, I don't love it too much. Yeah, I think I'd really just go with hammer, like Harold Varner, hammer Harris English at those odds. Get hammered Cameron Champ there. I mean, those are pretty solid top 40 bets there for, to get plus money on. I like that quite a bit. All right, this is going to be a little bit of a quicker betting podcast. So if you guys have any questions, get those in. Or else I'm going to be wrapping up here. We'll be doing the normal PGA DFS live video tomorrow, probably around the same time. It should be a fun event. NBA playoffs are on right now. My Bucks lost, which kind of sucked, but whatever. It's been hard to get invested into the NBA playoffs. Have you guys kind of felt the same? I don't know. This whole break, the 3 months off, has really kind of ruined the NBA for me this year. Easy showdown slates though today so far for NBA. Pretty easy there. But yeah, I'll be wrapping up here, guys. Thanks for joining. Hope you guys have a good week betting. And once again, I'll be doing the PGA DFS live video tomorrow at around the same time, 3 p.m. Central. So hope you guys come for that. Thanks for watching. As always, let's keep cashing, guys.